All right, we're back with Hammy. Probably the biggest weekend of the season, at least in the regular season, I would argue. Georgia versus Alabama. Definitely been kind of one-sided for a while now. Um, we're just excited to get to it. We're excited that we're finally here. It's been a long time coming. It's been 10 years, as we discussed, since Alabama has come to Sanford Stadium. But very exciting that we finally get this matchup we've all been looking forward to for forever, it feels like. But before we get into it, we got some news yesterday on the SEC about Georgia's permanent opponents. I want to ask you, Hammy, what you think about these. Georgia's going to be playing Florida, Auburn, and South Carolina as their permanent opponents for at least the next 4 years. A lot of people are going to tell us that Tennessee got snubbed, as we kind of discussed a few weeks ago. It's just tough to make it work to where we can play all the rivals we really want to, and then all the other rivalries in the SEC get protected. So, question to you would be, what do you think about that? What are your thoughts on Florida, Auburn, and South Carolina?
I like it. I mean, I do think I wish we had Tennessee. But South Carolina is, just as much of a rival. They're another SEC school. It's going to be good competition year in and year out. I do think it sucks that we don't get Tennessee because, like we talked about, man, those travels up to Neyland Stadium, it was pretty fun. And for us, we've been on the winning side as of recent, so it's fun to go into that place and get a win in front of that crowd as a Georgia fan. But I mean, I've been a Willie B. I like going to South Carolina. I like beating the Gamecocks. They're the last team that beat us at home, so there's a little bit of competition, maybe some something behind that to say, we're not letting South Carolina ever come in here again and beat us at home. So I'm excited. It's crazy that seems like the most mathematical for us to get South Carolina, just the way the other teams set up. I really can't believe, though. I thought Tennessee would get Vandy, Bama, and Florida, and that would be their
Bailed. They got bailed, is what we call that.
yes, exactly. And then Florida doesn't get LSU. So I think there's some serious rivalries that are missed out based on the new schedule. But I'm sure, it'll be kind of how it has been this year and last year, where it'll be a home and home for every other opponent for those 2 years. And I will bet you right now that Tennessee will be on our schedule next year. They will be. We'll have them in a home and home. So I mean, I don't know what that's going to look like, but I want to play Tennessee every year. But we get South Carolina and we get Auburn and we get Florida, so it's hard to complain. It's always good football.
Great schedule, absolutely. Do you remember who Florida got? Who their three were? I don't know it off the
Um,
top of my head.
Us, Kentucky, and South Carolina.
Okay. Because I mean they've played Kentucky. I know Kentucky's not really a crazy rivalry for anyone, I feel like. I feel like it's just
Yeah,
kind of
but
there. But they
Kentucky,
have played Kentucky, and Kentucky and Florida have played for a long time. There's a lot of history.
yeah,
Um, so at least that makes sense.
yeah.
I think it'll be good. I wish it would have been Tennessee, but I know that Georgia South Carolina has more, not a bigger rivalry or not as much of a hated rivalry or close rivalry, but there's more games that have been played in it. So there's definitely arguably some more history in there.
Yeah,
Um, I like you said, can't complain. Those are three great rivalries to protect at least for the next 4 years.
yeah. And
Um,
I
so
think also, like, South Carolina, they hate Clemson the most, but I think we're right behind them. So they wanted to get that rivalry back to Columbia, South Carolina, which is crazy because we've got a target on our back. That's just who it is, being Georgia.
absolutely, and I remember I think it was Row 60 made a post a few years ago, and it was like who you hate most, depending on what part of Georgia you're from, and like up here's Tennessee, South Carolina's over here. You got Auburn and Bama. It just there's so many different teams. It just depends where you are in Georgia.
Yeah,
I mean, we,
totally.
we have 5 states bordering us. Like it just depends.
Yeah.
Um, Anyway, moving a little bit away from the SEC scheduling because that just came out yesterday, so we kind of had to talk about it. Jump straight into Georgia, Alabama. Obviously, Bama lost that first game to Florida State. A lot of people kind of wrote them off, and even though they definitely don't look exactly like the same Alabama, I'll tell everyone this right now: they have talent, and this is not a game we can just come into lightly and expect to win by 3+ scores. Like it's not going to be easy by any means. I wanted to ask you though. A lot of people don't really know a lot about Ty Simpson. I don't think. What challenges does Ty Simpson bring to Georgia's defense?
I think what's an underrated aspect of his game is his legs. He's a pretty dangerous runner, and We obviously saw that, in the Alabama offense last year with Jalen Milroe. That was kind of their bread and butter. If Jalen Milroe couldn't get going on his legs, then they fell apart. And that's what we saw in Alabama's 3 losses last year that kept him out of the playoff. Milroe just couldn't get his run game started, and then the pass game never opened up. He could never find Ryan Williams just because of that momentum killer. And I think going back to Ty Simpson coming into this year, I think he's not near as good of a runner as Jalen Milroe, but I do think it poses a threat. And as we've seen, in the history of Georgia football, we are not great against a running quarterback. Haynes King ran all over us with Tech last year in that 8 overtime game. Joey Aguilar, on that first drive against Tennessee, he ran it in on the first drive. That was Tennessee's first touchdown. So containing the quarterback is going to be of the utmost importance. And I think Ty Simpson's legs are underrated. So we have to apply the pressure. I watched some game film on Alabama, Florida State, and Florida State did an excellent job of sort of loading the box and bringing a blitzing linebacker almost every single first and second down situation. That's just kind of how they won the game. They limited Ty Simpson. And yes, on that first drive, he broke away for a couple first down chain moving plays. But man, after that first drive, Bama struggled. I think they had 55 rushing yards on that first drive against Florida State. And then the rest of the game, they had like 27. So they keyed in on stopping Ty Simpson and stopping his legs, and then it led to a big time victory in Tallahassee. And I think the Dogs have to replicate that and contain Ty Simpson.
I agree, absolutely. Definitely got to get that pass rush going. You got to see some more creative stunts, I feel like, up front, and I've discussed with some people about that specifically. I think we'll see it. I have a lot of faith in Kirby Smart all the time, but especially after like a game we had a couple weeks ago, I do think we'll be able to make some true adjustments. I think we'll look a lot differently, at least up front defensively.
Yeah,
I think a lot of their loss to Florida State, and I think you kind of hinted at it a little bit. Florida State just played very well, and I think Florida State is a good team.
yeah,
Alabama by far had some pretty bad moments on really mainly on both lines. And their pass defense got exposed in some ways, hoping we can learn from that a little bit. But I don't think that either of these teams are bad teams. They're definitely both vulnerable, but I mean, it's just two good football teams playing a game, and Florida State came out on top. They're the better team. But again, Alabama's nothing to just skip over. And I mean, they're not the same Alabama they have been, but the talent is totally there. Very comparable to past Bama teams as far as the talent they have. They're just not as similar in different ways, I guess. But anyway, my point being to whoever may be watching this, don't take Alabama lightly. Like they're still a very good football team. They're not what they have been in years past, probably, but that definitely still a threat for sure. Who has the advantage in the trenches in this game? I know we worked on that analysis post together yesterday. We all kind of had some mixed opinions, I guess, on exactly who takes the edge in those positions. But I think it's close. I think it could go either way. I do think this game will be won in the trenches. But anyway, back to the question: who has the advantage in the trenches in this one?
It's an interesting question because against Tennessee, our offense was clicking on all cylinders, something we hadn't seen against Marshall and Austin P. But if you go back and look at it, man, we struggled at right tackle. Ernest Green, whether he's hurt or not, he struggled all game for the amount of time that he played. And we really didn't have good offensive line play at the right tackle position until Bo Hewley came in with 5 minutes left in the game in overtime. And because of his performance, I think he's earned that right tackle spot. So if we can figure out the right tackle, I would lean toward Georgia, but it's hard to say that because Alabama probably has one of the best players in the country on their offensive line in Caden Proctor. He's projected, preseason to go number 1 overall, or at least top 5, top 10, whatever in the NFL draft. Man, he's a stud, but he hasn't looked that great thus far. And I'm not, necessarily counting him out, but everybody comes into Georgia, or Alabama always comes into Georgia, and they play their best team. They play their best football. They've turned into this super team, and it's because of
It's
guys.
unreal, dude. It is
Yeah,
just unbelievable. I've lost so much sleep, and I've probably lost quite a few years on my life watching this Alabama team year in and year. Sorry to interrupt you, but
no, you're
year in
good.
and year out, like life expectancy goes down. It's just the stuff that happens both on both sides. Like sometimes we'll just not play a good game, but other times it's like Jalen Milroe just turned into, I don't know, Marshawn Lynch and Tom Brady and one football player. It was unbelievable. And I'm looking at people. I'm like, if the season ends today, he wins the Heisman. Of
Yeah.
course, they lose to Vanderbilt the next week, and it's just like, really, like, can we get a break? Like, I know we've won two national championships in 4 years, but can we get a break from them, please? Like, it's just. Anyway, you said that, and it drives me crazy. Go on
I
though.
know. No, no, you're good. But I mean, to your point, like they come in and they're a super team, and Caden Proctor is one of those players that, like, if he straps up and he puts it on for Georgia, unlike he has maybe against a Wisconsin and a Florida State and UL Monroe or whatever they played, um, like he could strap up and be the best player in the country that he was hyped up to be. So that scares me, and in that sense, I'd lean Alabama. On the defensive side of the ball, I think it's pretty evenly matched. I think we've got a senior leader in Christian Miller who I'm really excited about, and I think has some untapped potential that we haven't seen yet. He was, not very disruptive in the Tennessee game, but he can be that player. And so just like Alabama takes a step forward when they play Georgia, we've got to take the step forward because we're playing Alabama, if that makes sense. Christian Miller has to be that anchor on the defensive line. I loved what I've seen from Xavier McLeod on the defensive line. And I think I've said it in almost every episode that we've done together. I am so high on Elijah Griffin, man. I love Elijah Griffin. He is a freak athlete. He's one of those guys you can't keep off the field because he's just a playmaker. He's a disruptor. And I'm excited to see in what packages we can get the freshman in this Alabama game and see what impact he can make, because I'm ready for him to take that step forward and burst onto the scene. And there's no stage like there is against Alabama in Sanford Stadium on Saturday night.
Absolutely. And we kind of discussed this before we started recording, but I think the atmosphere at Sanford Stadium this weekend will be by far the best one in Sanford, barring a horrible performance by us. The best atmosphere we've ever seen in Sanford, and probably one of the best atmospheres college football has ever seen. Like it is going to be elite.
Yep.
Like you said, let's be hell. And I love that line. I cannot stop thinking about it. Let's be hell. Let's show everyone that Sanford Stadium, we already know it's the toughest place to play in college football. Let's prove it even more. Like Georgia has a chance to do something really special this weekend. And if you're at the game, you have a true potential, a true chance to be a part of it. So let's be hell. Let's make this place living hell for our opponents, especially when it's a team like Alabama. But yes, Elijah Griffin really, it just, even if he hasn't gotten the numbers that maybe some people were expecting, the flashes of talent are just incredible. And he pops out on film for sure. He's one of these guys who is already a great player, but 2 to 3 years, we're going to be talking about him as a top draft prospect. I'm very sure of it.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, we're really just looking forward to seeing him break out. And like you said, no better time to break out than this weekend. Um, Gonna flip a little bit to the offensive side of the football. Obviously, Gunnar Stockton had the game of his life, game of his career, legacy moments after legacy moments against Tennessee. And Mike Bobo, outside of 2 to 3 drives when we could have put the game away, he called a phenomenal game. Like literally a pretty much a perfect play calling, perfect
Mhm.
game plan. How do you expect these two to build off of that great performance versus Tennessee overall? And do we expect that if this game is close, do we think that we're gonna finally put our foot on the gas and say, "Hey, let's go play some football. Let's not play to not lose. Let's play to win and attack their defense." What do you think is gonna happen for both of them?
I mean, I think, like you said, you have to build off of Tennessee, and how you do that is the run game has to be established first. One thing that the Georgia fans have been, cussing Mike Bobo for is just running it up the gut. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me let you in on a little secret. If we establish the run by running it up the gut, we break their will, and we can break their will early. And that's how this game has to go. And everybody was super excited to see Gunner let it loose and throw for 300 yards against Tennessee. But his bread and butter is when he uses his leg, when he gets out of the pocket, and when he can throw on the run, and when he just runs the ball straight up. I think we can't shy away from letting Gunner run the ball. I know he's got to go through his reads and his progressions and find the open man, but let's have some designed QB runs. Let's get that running back room by committee going. I think Dwight Phillips is going to have a huge game. He's kind of my X factor in this one. I was watching Brooks Austin on the Film Guy Network, and he was talking about how Dwight Phillips is an angle breaker, meaning not ankle with a K, but angle with a G. You think you have your angle on him, but his speed, his explosivity, his twitch. man, your angle is wrong almost every time. I think Dwight Phillips can have a breakout game, but it starts with those guys: Nate Frazier, Dwight Phillips, Chauncey Bowens. I mean, Josh McCray, what we saw him in some short distance goal line stands and things like that. Like, let's get these running backs going, and then the pass game will open up. I think obviously we've went to the portal and we've got those studs on the outside, Zachariah Branch in the screen game and slant game, but it all starts with the run game, and that goes back to the offensive line. They've got to move some people and open up some holes and let our running backs do their job.
Absolutely. It all starts with a run, which great job segueing into this next question I'm going to ask you. Before I ask it, I don't know if you saw this, but Mike Gundy got fired from Oklahoma State. Very
Yeah,
random, unrelated to Georgia, but I mean, that's Mets major news in college football. He's been there for 21 years, so thought I'd throw that out there. That's definitely
yeah,
some news for the college football world. I am just now reading that, so
yeah.
I'm late to the party. Anyway, but that's perfect for these running back questions. So, I mean, what's your take on that running back room so far, as far as like who's your lead guy? I know Nate Frazier's a starter, but is that starting position, I don't want to say threatened, but I mean, how does he compare to the other running backs so far? Who's really kind of impressed you thus far out of this running back room? Who's really been the guy who's kind of taking your attention really the most?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think Dwight Phillips is kind of an X factor in this. Like you said, Nate's probably RB1, but we're always going to be running back by committee. I've been impressed with Chauncey Bowens too. But Dwight Phillips got the first touchdown of the year against Marshall, and I don't think that was a coincidence. I think he had worked for it. It kind of reminded me of like Brian Harrion in 2016 when he scored the first touchdown against UNC in Kirby's first ever game as the Georgia head coach. Like he had come in as a 3-star recruit and had worked his ass off in the offseason through fall camp, and Kirby let him have his moment. And I think that's what he did with Dwight Phillips too. I love his nickname. Peanut's awesome. Like anybody on the football
Absolutely.
field that's nicknamed Peanut, it's like kind of like a oxymoron. Like he's gonna be good. I don't know why, but I just think the nickname Peanut's awesome. Um, but I really love Dwight Phillips. Nate Frazier is the prototypical back. Like he looks like the true running back. He's got, the build, the burst, the explosivity, the twitch, and all that stuff. But man, Chauncey Bowens is a bowling ball, and I love him in those tough yardage situations. I love, Dwight being the lightning, and then Nate is kind of the beautiful man child of them both. He's got the kind of short yardage stuff. But one thing that concerns me is Nate's vision. And I think there were some points left on the board against Tennessee. There's some plays, if you go back and look, that Nate's not hitting the right hole. He's not being the patient back. He needs that kind of Le'Veon Bell take. I don't know if
Hmm.
you remember watching
Oh
Le'Veon
my
Bell with the
gosh, dude.
Steelers,
Absolutely.
but he was so good at the hesitation. He would just wait for his offensive line to open the gap, and then he's right through it. He's it's so beautiful to watch because he would literally, have one ball in his hand and then his other hand on the offensive lineman's butt, like literally following him. Like Nate has to have that kind of reliability on his offensive line, which I know is hard to do. It's easier said than done because can we trust this offensive line against an Alabama defensive line? We shall see. But trust those guys. Keep your hand on that dude's butt and just follow him and let the hole open up. Let the design where it's supposed to go open up, and I think if Nate can do that and he can have the vision, man, he's going to burst some long ones, not only this game but in the season moving forward. I'm obviously super excited about those other guys, but Nate's the true running back one, and he's got to get going. So
I totally agree. I think you pretty much perfectly said that. Um, Nate, definitely watching his film before the season. I love the dude. He's probably my favorite player. He's fun to watch. When
yeah.
he's on, he's on. But as you mentioned, like ball carrier vision is definitely one of those things that he has struggled with, and I think it's gotten better, but it still needs to improve a lot.
Mhm.
On top of this, just holding on to the football, which he's only fumbled one time this year, if I'm not mistaken, but he fumbled several times last year. So just getting better with that, I think, is also part of this. But I wanted to bring you this as well. These are the running back snap counts from uh, this past game against Tennessee. I'm not going to go specific into numbers. I'm just going to read in order. So Chancey Bones had the most snaps. Nate was after him. Cash was after him. Josh McCray came alive and said what's up and scored a couple touchdowns. And then
Yeah.
Dwight Phillips was actually at the bottom of that one. Although he's been playing a lot this first 2 weeks. Are we really going to read much into that as far as Chancey getting more snaps than Nate? And then obviously the other three? Or do we really read into that too much? What's your take on that?
I guess you can read into it. Dwight being the least out of those. I don't really buy into it too much. I think Cash has those specific packages. He's probably our best receiving back out of the backfield. So obviously he's going to get some important third down snaps like we saw last season. I mean, if it was third and 8 or longer, he was on the field and it was guaranteed it was going to be a wheel route. And yeah, it worked a lot, but it was the most predictable thing ever. So I think, there's definitely packages for each back, and I'm not opposed to it. I think we're going to see that exact same kind of spread, just a bunch of snaps for a bunch of dudes. I don't know the exact numbers like you said, but I mean, I just think there's different packages and there's different play calling styles for each back, and Bobo's got to find that rhythm and see which one is having success in which situation, and then just ride that to the end till the fat lady sings. And man, if the dogs aren't on top, I bet that these running backs didn't get going.
I think that's definitely a fair take right there at the end. We're going to shift back to the offensive line for just a minute. I would ask you to give me a quick answer on this so we go a little more into depth on the final question after this one.
Mhm.
What will the offensive line look like this week? What's your prediction on how they'll look? What do we really need to see out of this line, I guess, to feel comfortable about our chances?
So I hinted at it earlier, but I think Bo Hewley earned his position at that right
Absolutely.
tackle spot. I think he played the best out of the three that were there. I loved seeing what Dontrell Glover did at that right guard position. I think he's young and you can tell, but he's got promise. The anchor of that offensive line is Drew Bobo at center, and he played an outstanding game against Tennessee. He was one of the best guys on the field throughout that entire game. I mean, he was consistently snapping it well. First of all, his first job to gunner, and second of all, he was sticking to his assignment. Watching the film back, Michael Morris had a great game too. There was some kind of screw ups, and I partially blame that on the noise of Neyland Stadium. As much as we, like to say Sanford is the loudest, which we do believe it is, Neyland is loud, and I think that does mess with your offensive line. But man, Big Mike is he's a body mover. He is so big and so strong, and he's got to be that against Alabama. So my prediction for this offensive line is is dominance in the first half. And I think that starts because we want to establish the run. We've said it, countless times, but I think we get that running game going and we show that this offensive line is no funny business. We are not a group to trifle with. We are, the Great Wall of Georgia, and you're going to feel the red, baby. It's going to be awesome. So I'm predicting, a first half dominance, and then, the second half, anything can happen in the fourth quarter. Alabama's going to, make their halftime adjustments. And that third quarter might get a little hairy, but I think the fourth quarter, when those lights go off and the phone lights come on and the fireworks go off and the red lights come on and it's just the most electric atmosphere in all of America, those offensive linemen are going to feed off of that and they're going to bring the juice.
Absolutely. I mean, I get fired up thinking about that. They're gonna feel the red. They're gonna feel the red. What is it with you and like these one-liners on the podcast? That's incredible. Got let's be hell. You're gonna feel the red. I cannot wait to see what next week brings.
Yeah.
Kentucky might not bring that much excitement, but we'll see. Um, and then uh, finally, I guess the ultimate question: who's gonna win this game? And is it gonna be a close game, or are we gonna get blown out or blow Alabama out? What's it going to look like? What's your, not even your score prediction, but just who's winning? Will it be close?
So I'll start by saying this. Whoever wins this game is going to be the locker room winner. And what I mean by that is Alabama enters their locker room pregame, and those older guys that have beaten Georgia countless times get up and they say, "Hey, boys, we do not lose to these mofos, and we're not about to start losing to them." And then on our side, in our locker room, these old guys have been like, "Man, I've never beaten these guys." Kirby's going to say to them, mark my words, he's going to stand up and say, "Boys, stand up if you have beaten Alabama." And there might be a few fifth years that were on that 21 national championship team, but majority of the guys on this squad have never beaten Alabama. And he's going to say, "Well, let's change that tonight." And so those are the two locker room narratives that come into this game in Sanford Stadium. And it's whoever wants it more. And it starts in that pregame speech. It starts with your boys when you're getting taped up, when you're putting those pads on, when you're buckling your chin strap, and you say, "All right, I've never beaten these guys. Let's go get it done." Or Alabama says, "We've never lost to these guys. We're not starting tonight." So man, I hate predicting. It stresses me out, but I like our edge and I like where we are, historically in this series, but I like where we are in the season better than where Bama is. They've clicked in the past 2 games that they played since that Florida State loss, and Ty Simpson has looked much better. Ryan Williams came on against Wisconsin. I like our edge. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna stick with the dogs, cautiously optimistic. It's hard to pick against them on this podcast, but and being at home and that crowd being elite, being early, being loud, intense, tough, electric, all the good stuff. I mean, we've got to defend our turf, and I think we can do it on Saturday night.
This game being at home is such a big reason why I picked Georgia. Like, obviously, I have confidence in Georgia, no matter the time, place, who we're playing. I have confidence in Georgia. Cautiously optimistic, kind of like what you said.
Mhm.
Um, if Georgia does find a way to lose this game, it's going to be tough for me to not pick Alabama every time we play them until we actually get it done.
Yep.
That being said, I think Georgia gets it done. I think Sanford's going to be too much for Alabama. I'm not calling Florida State's home advantage weak, but it's no Sanford Stadium. Ty Simpson hasn't seen this. Ty Simpson hasn't seen an SEC defense yet. Even though we have our struggles, I think we'll get it done. I think it'll be definitely a good game. It will not be a blowout in my eyes, but I do think Georgia will get it done. Um, That's crazy. A lot of what you said about whoever wants it more, and I love that. I hope Kirby does come out and say that. But who wants it more? I actually had this written down for my school prediction. I think that's what it's going to come down to is culture. It's a culture battle almost
Yep.
in a lot of ways. But Hammy, thank you. Go Dogs. Obviously, we're both picking Georgia to win because why not? But I think we'll be right. I hope we're right. We'll talk about it next week.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.